I've seen layouts like this before, but I feel like Alliance nailed a couple of the details that others miss. Welcome everybody, Josh here, RV Nerd of Bish's RV, down here at Alliance today with this new 291 Delta model right here. And it's going to be very similar to like a 265 Transcend, a 30 BHS Cougar, but done the Alliance way. And what that means is you're going to see things like, you know, the composite walls, the Goodyear tires, the Norco chassis, but there's a couple little details they did different. I've seen some manufacturers do bits and pieces of this, but never in this combination before. First of all, the full sliding privacy wall in a travel trailer like this is not something you normally run into. Usually you have these open air bunks that make the whole space look and feel large, but I don't feel like this one feels small. And instead of a rear sofa in front of the bunks, they went with a rear, what I'm going to call breakfast nook, but with a floating storage ottoman flip top multifunction job that can create a U-dinette or just a little corner space. Or you can totally move that free floating table and have like a lounge plus sofa situation. And by doing that corner breakfast nook, they were able to put a sofa straight across from the entertainment center, which is one of those things that I feel some other manufacturers have slipped on with this layout in the past. So if you are looking to be entertainment focused, this floor plan does that well. Now this is a full Delta, not the Delta Ultra. So we're getting the larger front drop frame storage, the taller ceiling, the dual airs on this one right here. You also have, like, of course, a heated enclosed belly, 200-watt solar package, but solid surface counters in this one, and it is a very private front true queen bed. Now, I always like to share good with the bad. This is a walk-through middle bathroom, and that, right, especially in a family camper, some people just really don't like that, and I get that. If that's a problem, just stop watching this video. I would just ask that you take a look at something else that we put out for you, just as a way of saying, hey, thanks for, you know, not wasting my time. But every RV has ups, downs, and in-betweens. I want to try to hit all those, and if you appreciate that, hit that subscribe button. And in the meantime, let's get in there. So, sitting on the steps that can get you up to the bunks, that's basically where we're starting here. I never know where to start floor plans like this, so I just kind of pick a spot and start going. I want to point out real quick, that table right there is free floating. So if you want to move it over almost like an extended kitchen counter, if you want to move it in front of the sofa, if you want to take it outside, if you just want to get it out of the way, you can do all of that in this camper. Now this is a full Delta, not the Delta Ultralight series. So this has a 6'9" ceiling. So this whole thing is going to look and feel bigger. And what I appreciate is they took that opportunity to also grow the height of the slide out. So it really opens up the space in here. And again, this is something where instead of putting the dinette in the slide, they put the sofa in the slide, which I think will help the entertainment arrangement. But to help the dinette, potentially, instead of being a breakfast nook to sort of function like a U-dinette, it has this floating flip-top padded top storage ottoman, which can just do, obviously, a lot of different things, which is kind of cool. Now, it's a very deep floor flush rack and pinion slide. And so that you don't bash your head against the slide fascia, they pulled the refrigerator and the pantry door forward. But instead of wasting most of the space behind it, they at least gave you a couple pockets here. Technically, under that, there is a little bit of space there that isn't utilized even from the outside of the RV. I don't like wasted storage opportunities myself, but it's probably not the end of the world. Now, their air conditioning system has changed since I first started recording these Deltas. Here in your main cabin, you have the 18,000 BTU Furrion Chill Cube. And then up in the bedroom, you'll have a smaller dedicated second air conditioner. I think it's like an 8,000 or something like that, exclusively for the bedroom space. It won't be a whole house centralized air. So you still have standard dual airs on this thing. If I slide over here into the sofa, give you a look around, again, direct viewing entertainment. It's mounted up a little high, not terrible, but you have actually some decent campside window coverage here as a result. It's not like, wow, that's amazing, but it's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. And this solid surface counter space is expansive, and I love how they utilized the interior wall of the camper, which is hollow, to run power outlets right where you would find them near the counter more easily, except the left-hand one's right next to the sink. I don't know that they even needed that one over there. Now, something I am curious about is, do we have other power outlets under the overheads? Okay, we do have one over there. I figured we would have one somewhere. That doesn't surprise me at all. Now, the countertop right here, they didn't do a sweep back cut back like a lot of manufacturers do. Yeah, it's angled slightly, but it's not super severe. And they do have that little electric space heating Tootsie toaster there as well. Now that TV can pivot around. So if you want the TV to be able to face the theater seat, or I believe there is an available hide-a-bed sleeper sofa if you are so inclined. That being said, this RV already has private bunk sleeping space. My estimation is more people are going to find benefit from the theater seat, but I don't know your family. I don't know your life. Maybe you need every sleeping space you could possibly get. I know in the Utah areas that's quite popular. Working our way back here, once again, remember this table's free floating. So if you want to get that sucker out of there and just have kind of an open lounge space, you totally could. And actually, it'd be a little bossy in the space, so you could maybe put like a little kid pack and play or something like that in there if you got littles. But notice how they have a full sliding privacy door on the back bunk space. This is one of those things, they're not the first and only ones to ever do it, but usually you don't get that unless you're in a fifth wheel, and even then it's not a guarantee. Usually in a floor plan like this, you have the double over double bunks, but they're open air. They just breathe right into the main cabin of the RV. And that's not going to happen here. You can actually close this off. And gaining privacy like that is something I know a lot of people like. The trick is to get private bunks, no matter how you do it, you pretty much have to be about 34, 35 foot tip to tail to accomplish that. Now, something else I want to point out. This is basically the little brother to the Avenue 38 DBL. So if you like this, but you want it on steroids and a fifth wheel, take a look at Avenue. They're going to have the thing that works for you. They do have an extra bunk light up there, but you actually have a switch that you can turn off, yourself very easily to be like, all right, lights out, kids. All the windows that you see are going to open for airflow, and you do have a central air duct back here coming off that Chill Cube air conditioner. So they and because it's an open air at the foot of the bed, even the bottom bunk will get airflow, which is something that I don't think a lot of people always consider. I'm also a little surprised they don't have like a hanging closet rod in here, or at least a shelf. That's just too tall of a space to not have something done with it. But this is prototype time of year. It is very possible that they will do some tweaking there. I don't have a guarantee of that though. So what I'll say is eyeball that before we decide, hey, they really, crap the bed and poop the goose or whatever you want to say. I've never heard a single person say poop the goose, but I sure hope that's a phrase that catches on after this. One of these days before I die, I pray I get to hear one of my northern cousins say something like, hey, he's just pooping a goose there. It just feels correct. I don't even know what it means, but it feels correct. This, by the way, these are ripcord recliners, and I wish any manufacturer that had a center console made it a flipping console like this. But the flipping armrest, the flip up down armrest, maybe I should phrase it that way. You know what I mean. And that pantry was a very pleasant surprise. I was expecting just the normal shelves, but you see, again, they had to put that extra pocket behind the fridge because it's so deep. I thought that pantry was going to be so deep we couldn't even reach to the back of it, and I was getting ready to criticize it. And then I opened it, and I realized that all the storage comes to you, and I don't know what kind of NASA science magic magnets they have holding those things shut so they don't fly open going down the road, but they're doing the job. You got to get awful friendly with those things to get them opened up. They did a really good job there. They also did a good job of throwing some shelving in the overhead cabinet space to really maximize the total storage. Also, this is such a small but smart thing. They were one of the first I ever saw doing offset sink drain in a farm sink. And they did that because it allowed them to have a space here for their wastebasket. But if you want to put like a rinse basin in the sink and then wash on the other side, it's perfect. And they're very good about using all the little spaces that they can, even though they're running cabinet ducted heating, which normally means you have to sacrifice some kitchen storage. They're very good about avoiding that. Also, just the little, making sure you got a spot for silverware. Just the thoughtful, everyday touch feature functions are nice here. Now, I do want to be very clear about something. I'm cheating right now. This overhead cabinet door does not have a strut, so I kind of pulled the TV out a little bit to hold it up just so that you could see the storage. But I want you to understand what we're looking at there. It's not one of those anti-gravity doors that, you know, holds itself up or anything like that. I don't want there to be any false pretense on anything. Oh, hold on. I missed a cabinet space over here. We're going to turn chicken poop into chicken soup. First of all, while we're looking down here, I want to point out, you see all the under effect lighting? That also means that has a toe kick, so it's recessed right there, so you can really belly right up to the bar. That seems to be something that a lot of your more premium brands are getting correct right now, and a lot of others are not. All right, wasn't sure what was down there. That's your color-coded converter system, where you have all your wiring and whatnot located. And I also kind of stumbled into, whether they meant to or not, that little floating bench squeezes perfectly between that step and the fire extinguisher. Quick note on fire extinguishers. If your RV ever has a fire, just get out. Grab your kids first, your pets second, and get yourselves out. These things, if they start to burn, they're going to go fast. The best thing you can do is get out, get away, and tell everybody else around you to get away. Just a little pro tip there for you from your Uncle Josh. I hope you never have to worry about that, but if it comes up, I want you to know. Now, not only do we have solid surface counters in the kitchen, they actually persist all the way here through the bathroom, which I think is kind of nice as well. Now, there's some fair, not like wow, but a decent storage here. Starting in that medicine cabinet, I threw my phone in there just to give you a size reference, and then they extended the countertop a little bit, which allowed them some space for the triple drawers that you see over there, and then just the open cabinet under the sink, which I think could be very solid for like waste baskets. You know, you don't have a lot of towel storage dedicated in this bathroom. That porcelain foot flush stool you see me sitting on right now, that is a soft close lid. You do have one of those retractable shower doors, and with this having a 6'9" ceiling, that means that when I stand in the shower, my head's not in the bubble. Now, some builders who make this floor plan, if I weave you around the corner on the right side of the screen, you might see like a linen pocket. This RV doesn't have that. That's why I'm saying you don't have a lot of like linen towel storage here. Now, one of the things with Delta, they were one of the very first travel trailers I ever saw that standardized dual air. And unless something has changed, you were always able to run both of them on 30 amp service. Now, they have changed the variety of airs that they're using. I'm not worried about the chill cube. The one that's here in the bedroom, I'm not sure about. So that might be one of those factors we want to verify. I appreciate that we have full viewing windows in the door so we can spy on Mr. Will, who's one of the media folks over here with Alliance, who has no idea he's on candid camera currently, Mr. Will Martin. They're privacy shade prepped. They don't actually include the shade. I don't love that. I wish it just kind of had the shade. This is a 60 by 80 true queen, thankfully, so it's not the Shorty McShort pants bed. It's not the worst I've ever seen to walk around, but your big XL pass-through compartment that they have does mean that near the end of the bed, or middle of the bed, you do have to start kind of climbing in. Before I forget, you do have TV hookups over here as well. Something else I've noticed, they have really good lighting packages in here, whether it's the bedroom, the kitchen. They always have all these extra little accent lights like all over the place, and they all have their own little individual switches. Now, they didn't do this in the kitchen, but thankfully in the bedroom, they made it easier to access the overhead cabinet space. And they also don't have that flat paneled off dead pocket up in the middle of it that I see a lot of brands sometimes stumble with. Now, obviously, you've got the drawer space here, but they also have this little just space. There's just little space. And they said, we don't want to waste it. And this is kind of open face over here. So if you're a side sleeper, if you're claustrophobic, it doesn't feel quite so imposing. Now, you also have a very easy lift bed space here. Plywood decked. I noticed they didn't throw some extra OSB down there. Not that that's a problem. It just doesn't look as pretty. I mean, if we're being real, they will say borrowed this concept from Imagine, where it has this extra sliding little kind of storage tray in it, just a second layer of storage, as it were. Now, I've also taken the liberty of closing the slides for road mode, and this RV has pretty functional overall travel access, but it comes at you in two waves. Also, on that sliding privacy door, They did mount some towel hangers. So although this RV doesn't have a lot of towel linen storage, like you got that open face pocket right there, you do at least have a place to hang a couple things. So the front door will get you to the primary bedroom, and it will get you to the bathroom. Very handy. If you have kids and you pass the last rest area for like 1,000 miles and they're like, guess what? Now it's time for me to use the bathroom. And you're like, of course it is. Well, you can still make that happen. Now this door back here will work for the kids' sleeping, traveling access. You'll see that the kitchen access is going to be pretty great. But one of the things I want to point out is the location of that little dining breakfast nook. Not being mounted in a rack and pinion slide means that it remains fully functional in transit, and the location of the refrigerator and the drawers means those also remain fully functional. So this is a fair, I'm not going to say amazing, but a fair trailer for travel stops and potentially stayovers, depending on how you like to travel. Now, I have a feeling that if you call, this is actually a really good way to shop a dealership as much as you shop the RV. Call an RV dealership that has one of these and just say, I have a half ton, could I tow this? And say nothing more. And if they just go, yes, get away from them. They have no interest or concern with your safety whatsoever. If they say, tell me about your truck, that's probably a better answer. I will say this. This model is, I don't even have the full specs on. I'm betting it's about 35 foot tip to tail, tongue to bumper, just based on the experience I have looking at campers like this. That's a long trailer for a half ton to handle. I haven't even looked at the weights and measures. Right away, because of the length of the RV, I personally feel you probably want to go a step higher on your vehicle. I don't think you would ever regret handling this with a 3/4 ton. I think you might regret handling it with less than a 3/4 ton. And keep in mind, I've had people say, you're just trying to make people spend more money on trucks. I don't get paid when you buy trucks. That's not how my pay plan works. I'm not a commissioned salesperson. I don't even get paid more if you buy this camper even from a Bish's store. I'm trying to keep you from getting killed. And if you disagree with me and you want to tow with your half ton, I guess you're an American. Do whatever you want to do, but understand you're rolling some dice there. And I'm just trying to keep you safe. So large front storage. You notice the like, it almost looks like you've got two docking centers. They have switches in there for things like your slides, your awnings. So like you can be right over here on the campsite of the RV and open that awning. Now, at a glance, it looks like, why didn't they extend the awning further? It's a massive awning. And it's back in the camp space away from the nose of the RV, because the nose of the RV is where you tend to get the most foot traffic at the parks. So they put your camp space back here. Makes sense. And I mean, I'm almost surprised they don't have a center support on that awning. It's huge. We have the Goodyear Endurance radials. The Delta series is a conventional leaf spring suspension system. It is a non-conventional chassis kind of arrangement, though. Under the belly, you know, it is enclosed. It is forced air heated. They do have a sewer hose tube to make your life a little bit easier in that regard. And then back here, kind of under the bunk space, Delta really likes to put these extra griddle, wombo combos on here. What's also kind of cool is how far they extend out. Some people are worried about grease or heat hitting the camper, and that's just not going to quite be a concern here. Working our way back, something that you'll find, I think there's like 3 of them on every one of these RVs, are these things right here. And a lot of RVs, you look at them, it looks like a cold water sprayer port. But on an Alliance, it is hot and cold. Up in that front pass-through compartment, that's where your water mixer is located. That's where your hot-cold knobs are located. So if you actually do want to, have an outdoor warm shower situation for various reasons, you could. And I take great pleasure in saying this. You can put an awful lot of junk inside that trunk right there. Notice, though, even the bunks are a welded aluminum cage. Rockwood's very similar like that, where basically almost anything they build in-house, almost everything on this is a welded aluminum cage. This is also, by the way, a rack and pinion slide system. So that, that big, heavy slide, that seating and refrigerator slide is going to be, I think, very nicely supported. And then just to kind of finish things up here, we do have ourselves, again, that big drop frame compartment. But notice how they left it as wide open as possible. You do have a drinkable water filtration system right here. You have access panels to get to things like your water pump for winterization and whatnot. I appreciate how big and wide open this feels. I'm not personally a fan of an open face docking center though, because if for some reason you develop some sort of dribble off that water line, yeah, it has a bit of a drip and dribble out and drain tray, but it also feels a little too easy for that to kind of get into the cavity here and then by contrast into like my bedroom and then everything else. So that's one of my personal just little kind of things, but I could probably deal with it or work around it. I don't know. What's your take on that? So thanks again for tuning in, everybody. I'll leave you a link in the video description to check for pricing and availability. And I have mentioned there's a few other brands that have a similar layout to this, like Brinkley, the 294 Model I think is also very similar. I'll drop you some links to the other guys that I've done videos on that are like this, and let you decide, look through them, which one works best for you, which one don't you like. And again, if you appreciate just how we give you the ups and the downs, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. So take care. Stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.